It's 1973. Clint Eastwood, Hollywood's new anti-hero king, opens an envelope at his home in Carmel, California. Inside is a letter, handwritten, blunt, and seething with old-school frustration. The sender? John Wayne, the Duke himself. Wayne had just watched Eastwood's latest film, High Plains Drifter, a dark, violent western where Eastwood's character literally paints an entire town red and renames it Hell. The townspeople are cowards. The hero is morally ambiguous, possibly even supernatural. It's a revenge tale soaked in cynicism. Wayne's message was clear and cutting. That isn't what the West was all about. That isn't the American people who settled this country. You see, this wasn't just one Hollywood star critiquing another's movie. This was a declaration of war between two visions of America itself. The idealized West versus the revisionist West. Hope versus nihilism. John Wayne versus Clint Eastwood. And here's the truth. They never reconciled. By the early 1970s, John Wayne was a living legend, but his crown was slipping. He dominated Hollywood for 4 decades, starring in classics like Stagecoach, The Searchers, and True Grit, which finally won him an Oscar in 1970. But he was also 66 years old, battling health problems and watching the world change around him. America was different now. The Vietnam War had shattered the country's faith in simple heroism. Watergate was unraveling trust in authority. Audiences didn't want clean-cut cowboys anymore. They wanted complexity, darkness, moral ambiguity. Enter Clint Eastwood. By 1973, Eastwood had already conquered Hollywood with Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy and then Dirty Harry. He was younger, leaner, quieter. His characters didn't make speeches about honor. They squinted, killed efficiently, and walked away without explanation. He represented everything Wayne despised, the anti-hero. According to film historian Richard Schickel, who wrote Eastwood's authorized biography, Wayne saw Eastwood's success as a personal insult. It wasn't just about movies, it was about what America stood for, and Wayne believed Eastwood was poisoning that ideal. Let's talk about what John Wayne's westerns represented. In Rio Bravo, Wayne plays a sheriff who refuses outside help because accepting it would be dishonorable. In The Searchers, despite his character's racism and darkness, there's an underlying belief that civilization must triumph over savagery. Wayne's heroes had codes. They protected the weak. They believed in something larger than themselves. In a 1971 interview with Playboy magazine, Wayne said, "I've always followed my father's advice. He told me first to always keep my word, and second, to never insult anybody unintentionally. If I insult you, you can be goddamn sure I intend to." Now contrast that with Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name in Sergio Leone's films. This character has no backstory, no family, no expressed code of honor. He plays both sides for profit. He kills without remorse. And for a few dollars more, he literally shoots a man in the back, something Wayne's characters would never do. By the time Eastwood directed High Plains Drifter in 1973, he'd taken this philosophy even further. The film opens with his character riding into town, immediately getting into a gunfight, and then forcing himself on a woman in a barn, a scene that's deeply uncomfortable even by 1970 standards. The townspeople are revealed to be complicit in the murder of a marshal, and Eastwood's character may be that marshal's ghost seeking revenge. Wayne was horrified. According to Patrick McGilligan's biography, Clint, The Life and Legend, Wayne told friends that Eastwood was destroying the myth of the Old West and that his films were anti-American. The irony? Both men were actually from California, and neither had ever been real cowboys. But they were fighting over who got to define the American mythology. Here's where the story gets even more interesting. In 1971, before he sent that angry letter, John Wayne had actually been offered the role that would make Clint Eastwood a superstar, Dirty Harry. Frank Sinatra was originally set to play Harry Callahan, the rogue San Francisco cop who asks criminals if they feel lucky. But Sinatra injured his hand and had to drop out. The role was then offered to John Wayne. Wayne read the script and turned it down flat. According to Mark Elliott's biography, American Rebel, Wayne thought the character was too violent and lacked moral clarity. He reportedly said the film glorified police brutality. Paul Newman, Robert Mitchum, and Steve McQueen also passed, Clint Eastwood took the role. Dirty Harry became a cultural phenomenon, earning over $36 million at the box office and spawning 4 sequels. It cemented Eastwood as Hollywood's biggest action star. According to several sources, including film critic Roger Ebert's interviews from that period, Wayne later admitted he'd made a mistake, but by then it was too late. Eastwood owned the decade. There was another missed opportunity that deepened the divide. In the mid-1970s, Eastwood approached Wayne with a script for a film called The Hostiles, a Western about aging gunfighters forced to confront their violent pasts. Eastwood envisioned it as a two-hander, a chance for both legends to work together. Wayne rejected it immediately. In a conversation recounted by Eastwood in a 1997 interview with Empire magazine, Wayne told him, "I don't like the negativity in your scripts. The West wasn't like that." Eastwood responded, "But it was like that. We're just showing a different side." Wayne wouldn't budge. The project never happened. Then there was the Don Siegel incident. Siegel was Eastwood's mentor, the director who'd helmed Dirty Harry, Coogan's Bluff, and The Beguiled. According to multiple accounts, including Siegel's own autobiography, A Siegel Film, Wayne and Siegel were both invited to a Hollywood dinner party in the early 1970s. When Siegel extended his hand to Wayne, the Duke either ignored him completely or made a dismissive comment about the people making those violent pictures. The exact details vary depending on who's telling the story, but everyone agrees Wayne snubbed Siegel publicly and by extension disrespected Eastwood. Eastwood never publicly badmouthed Wayne in return. That wasn't his style. But the message was clear. There would be no reconciliation, no mentorship passed down, no torch ceremony. This was a Cold War. John Wayne died in 1979 after a battle with stomach cancer. His final film, The Shootist, was released in 1976, a poignant Western about an aging gunfighter dying of cancer. It was almost as if Wayne was acknowledging his own mortality and the death of his version of the West. Clint Eastwood continued making Westerns, but in 1992, he directed and starred in Unforgiven, a film that would win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. Here's what's fascinating. Unforgiven is actually a love letter to the Western genre, even as it deconstructs it. Eastwood's character, William Money, is a retired killer trying to live a peaceful life. He's haunted by his past. The film explicitly states that killing has consequences, that violence is ugly, that there are no easy answers. In many ways, Unforgiven was Eastwood's response to Wayne's letter 20 years earlier. It seemed to say, "You're right that violence has consequences, Duke. But the West wasn't just about honor and hope. It was also about blood, greed, and moral compromise. Both truths can exist." The truth is, both men were right. John Wayne gave us the mythology we needed. The belief that individuals can stand up for what's right, that courage matters, that civilization is worth building. Clint Eastwood gave us the darker reflection, the understanding that heroism is complicated, that violence leaves scars, that the West was as much about survival as nobility. They never made peace. Wayne never apologized for that letter, and Eastwood never compromised his vision. But together, they defined the Western genre more completely than either could have alone. Because here's the final truth about their feud. America has always contained both visions, the idealistic and the cynical, the hero and the anti-hero. John Wayne and Clint Eastwood weren't just feuding with each other. They were feuding over which version of America we wanted to believe in. And maybe, just maybe, we need both.